My name is Peter Janssen. I'm a horticulturist here at the Hortus Botanicus Amsterdam, and I'm also the Plantendokter. Today we'll be looking at the most common pest problems that people have with their houseplants from examples in the garden. So most common problems are aphids, thrips, scale insects and mealybugs in the house. There are many more problems, but those are the most common ones. And there are three ways to remove or deal with your pest problems. That's removal by hand, chemical treatment, or with biological control. So removing by hand is just as the name says. If you don't have a lot of pests, like this over here, then you can just remove the pests and put them straight into the bin. And if you keep that up for a couple of days, then you'll be done with the pest problem. This is also the most common way of removing problems in the a vegetable garden, such as beetles or caterpillars. If that doesn't work, then you can use chemical sprays. The best and of course the most environmentally friendly are plant-based sprays like neem oil. This is a combination of organic pyrethroid and plant-based oil, and this works best for soft-bodied insects. So this will not work for scale, for example. And then you would just, when you spray the plant, you make sure you cover the entire leaf and as many of the pests as you can. And this is also especially useful if you have an extremely serious infestation like this over here, because the other option, biological control, takes a while before it catches up. So here is an example of another problem. These are thrips. And the damage of thrips looks like this mottling on the leaf. This is caused because the thrips scrapes open the surface of the leaf and sucks out the leaf juices, and it creates this mottling. Another pest I forgot to mention was spider mites. Very small mites that are very difficult to catch early, and they create quite similar problems on the plant. With thrips are very difficult to control by hand, so the best is with a chemical spray, or with biological control. So at the Hortus we try to spray organic chemicals as little as possible, and we prefer to use biological control for everything, and we only use the chemicals in the most extreme cases. So let's go into the glasshouse here behind and have a look at some of the organic pest control mechanisms. These are predatory insects, and there are actually some very nice examples where you can see the evidence that they've been busy. Biological pest control is using predatory insects to eat and to parasitize the problem insects. Those are mostly in the form of parasitic wasps. There are some ladybirds. There are predatory thrips. You can even use some funguses and bacteria as biological control mechanisms. So on this plant, for example, especially on the underside of the leaf where you can't see that easily, we have lots of aphid problems. But you can also see the evidence that biological control has been busy because there are mummified aphids on the leaves. The parasitic wasp lays its egg inside the aphid, and the larva eats the aphid from the inside out, and the remains are then mummified. In this way, the balance in nature is kept. Inside a glasshouse, the balance is not always that well maintained, and so we have to introduce the biological control agents, the wasps and so on. And this is a leaf where you can clearly see where parasitism has been happening. One of the drawbacks of biological control is that it usually takes quite a long time for the balance to be achieved and for the problem to be addressed or solved. Because of course you're putting out a certain number of biological control, and they have to catch up for the pest problem. So let's go look at another plant where the balance has not yet been achieved, and this plant's actually looking quite sad at the moment. If you look in between here, this plant is severely infested with mealybugs. And in between you'll also see the predators, the Cryptolemus larvae, but they haven't caught up with the pest pandemic yet, the pest problem yet. So this plant is very badly infested and looking quite sad as well. And so this is one of the drawbacks of biological control. You really have to wait for something to catch up. So in a severely affected plant like this is where you would rather use a chemical spray to deal with the problem once and for all to save the plant. But fortunately, this is a very tough plant, so I can wait for it to be fixed by the biological control. There are larvae, predatory larvae all over the place. So I'm not going to be spraying any chemicals now because then I kill the predators as well. Okay, next we're going to go to the tropical house to look at a very bad problem and how it's being dealt with, and also to the palm house to see how to very easily deal with spider mites. We're going to have a look at one of the problems that we have here. Specifically, it's scale insect. Here's a very good example of a scale infestation. It looks bad, but we're keeping it like this for a reason. If you look carefully at the different scale insects here, you'll notice that they're different colors, and something is going on here. The light brown scale insects and the yellow ones are the living scales, and then there are black scales in between, and those ones have been parasitized, and inside there is a little wasp larva. And then if you look even closer, you'll see some of the scale look hollow, and there's a little hole inside, and that's where the wasp has hatched out from. So this looks quite bad, but overall there's not as many living scale as you'd think, and this is a very good source of food for the predatory wasps. So here we have the palm house, and here's our collection of palm trees and cycads, and here we also have pest problems, but I'm going to show you a good tip on how to control that. So especially with soft leaf plants in a dry living room, you often get the problem of spider mites. These are very small mites that also suck the sap of the leaves, and as I mentioned before, you don't see the damage until it's too late, so it's best to act preventatively for the problem. We do that by constantly releasing biological control, but an even more effective way, in which the plant is quite happy with as well, is to spray the plant off with water regularly. So I want to see if I can find an example of a leaf that has been affected by spider mites. Yeah, and you might actually get to see the spider mites as well. Yes. So this leaf has been infected by spider mites, and you can see it's a bit similar to the thrips damage, except it's more specific. And this side especially, that is very typical spider mite damage. Spider mites like dry and warm conditions, but that doesn't mean that you don't get spider mites in a tropical glasshouse. Even with very humid conditions, you can still get spider mites. The best way to get rid of them is actual contact with water. So at home, what you can do is to spray your plants very often, especially the plants that you know are susceptible to spider mites. In the botanical garden, what we do for big trees like this is we hose down the whole tree. So at home, obviously, you don't have a hose pipe. Maybe you do. Maybe you want to spray your plants off with a hose pipe, but the best is to put the plants under the shower. And don't spray them off with ice cold water. Make it lukewarm. And then give the plant a good shower on the upper side of the leaf as well as from below. If you do this on a monthly basis with most of your plants, you shouldn't have a problem with spider mites. If you have plants that are specifically prone to spider mites, you can do it, the more the better, actually. So what we do here for this tree, which is a problem tree, we spray the whole tree off. So at home, you might not have a hose pipe, and you might not have an entire tree that you need to spray off. So with smaller plants, it's good to use a misting bottle and to spray the plant off like that. It's important to get the plant underneath sprayed off as hard as the plant can manage. Having a problem at home is not a problem. Even here in the botanical garden, we have pest problems. But just because you have a pest problem doesn't mean you have to throw your plant away. It's completely normal to have pests on your house plants. The best thing to do is to know your pests, know your plants, know how to deal with them, and then there isn't any problem after all. So I hope the little video today could help you with your pest problems at home, and hope to see you again in the Hortus soon.